Go through the door and then downstairs, and there's a big stairway upwards. The white one.
Cruiser class. They are slightly larger, and their goal is to drive as long as possible without reaching. The race will take 24 hours, and the goal is to drive as many laps as possible. Weg. Nee, wir sind live jetzt.
Ah, aber das Handy ist noch da.
Du bist in der Show gerade. Ja. We're now at the pit stop. I'm Daniel Lanyo from aCentauri. I'm gonna stream and moderate the live stream. We're gonna have several interviews. But this is our first time streaming, so please excuse us if there are some technical issues. We are currently at the pit stop from aCentauri. Next to us is the other team, Ser, which is the other Swiss team. They come from Biel and are also participating in the race. The car is quite small, but pretty efficient and most importantly reliable. So this is an endurance race. It's really important to have a reliable car. It's not really about speed. It's more about long and steady. Our strategy team estimated that to be in the top 5, the car has to drive around 60 kilometers an hour on average. And from our last estimations, our car should run around 55 kilometers an hour. Our first driver is Max. He was also the driver who drove during the dynamic testing. To take part in the race, you have to go through scrutineering, and there are 2 phases. There's static scrutineering and dynamic scrutineering. In dynamic scrutineering, you test the car dynamically, so you drive around the track, you have to do an emergency brake, drive in an H shape, stuff like that. Also, it includes changing the tires as quickly as possible, so doing a sort of F1 stop. And you also get points when you do the tire change quickly. And all of this counts for the end result. The static scrutineering, that's more the technical part where we test the car statically, which means dimensions, if the driver can go in and out of the car in 15 seconds. The 2 best cars are considered to be Sonnenwagen Aachen and Top Dutch. That's just because they're also part of this solo racing 15 years, a lot longer than most teams. But they also have this really good engineers, good sponsors to improve the car. And they also started in position 1 at, I think, Top Dutch. Yes, Dutch and Aachen are in position 1, 2, and 3. But now it's already changed. So now we have solo team Eindhoven, who's in number 1, and Top Dutch and Sonnenwagen are 2, 3, and 4. They're doing a great job. aCentauri is currently number 10, but we started at position 12, so we moved up 2, which is really good. But again, the start and the position doesn't really say anything about the end result, since it's about endurance and not speed. And it's about who drove the longest in terms of how many laps, and not about how fast. Besides the live streaming technical issues, we had some technical issues with the car. One of them being that we have to drive with bike tires because the older car tires are too thin, and we want to drive for 24 hours, and we don't want to change the tires, because changing the tires, it takes about an hour with our car. This is due to the aerodynamic complexities of the design. It makes the car much more aerodynamic. However, it makes it also more complicated to change the tire. That's why we're using new bike tires. They're thicker, but they're heavier. Just literally like 2 hours ago, our electrical system wasn't working yet. We couldn't charge the car, and the car wasn't running. We had that issue already last night while we were testing during the night, and while we were testing during the night, and the car just stopped in the middle of the track, and a capacitor burned down in our electrical system. But we figured out what the problem is, hopefully, at least it works now, and we managed to change. The electrical team is working really, really hard to improve it and to fix it. They were working for 3 weeks straight, day and night, to figure out what the problem was and how to solve it. This is mainly due to the fact that we had to change the entire electrical system. Normally we participate in the Bridgestone World Solar Challenge, which is in Australia. It's a race that goes from the north to the south of Australia. It's about 3,000 kilometers long, and the requirements in the race are completely different than in this race. We have to drive, we can't drive as fast here. We have to brake a lot more. We have to stop a lot more. We have to turn a lot more. In Australia, we're going straight for 3,000 kilometers. And these requirements, the change in the requirements resulted in change of design, and we had to completely restructure the whole electrical system. And that's why hours ago. But now it seems to work. We're running. Hours.
Ja. Okay. Ja, eben wenn möglich, falls ein Fans oder so irgendetwas Schatten wirft und man die super Strom fahren, dann würde ich den Schatten.
Solar Team Eindhoven, Sunwang and Top Dutch are still number 1, 2 and 3. aCentauri dropped to number 12, so we're back at the starting position.
Yes.
The biggest struggle in the mechanical team was the braking system. This is also again because in the solar car race in Australia we didn't have to brake as much, we just had to drive straight for 3,000 kilometers, and now it's much more technical, and the track is much more technical and intricate. We have to stop a lot more, and again we have to change the braking system, and we had issues until last week, but now it should work. But that was the main concern in the mechanical part. Also the steering had some issues, the same reason Australia we didn't have to steer, here we have to steer a lot, but that should work too now.
Ja, genau. Und das ist alles weiterschicken. Daten, die einfach wichtig sind. Ich habe vorhin noch nicht
This is the straight line of the race. we'll see the cars passing by. It's one of the parts where they're the quickest. But like an F1 race where they drive by like rockets. It's more about being steady and slow, but for very long. As you can see, solo team iTone is still number 1. Sonwang Aachen number 2, and Inoptus solo team, actually they moved up. They took over Top Dutch. Inoptus is also quite a large team, and they're also part of the solo sports for a long time. There we go. I think that was Aachen. This car that is just driving by, that's a cruiser class. Again, the cruiser class, they have a different goal. It's more about building a car that can drive on the road and for a very long time, and not a race car. Sort of like a Volkswagen compared to an F1 in normal cars, normal combustion engine cars. The car that just drove by, that's the other Swiss team, the Serre. They're doing good. Solar Energy Races, the other Swiss team, abbreviation is Serre, is currently number 7. They are 5 ahead of aCentauri. Sooner, perhaps we could record the strategy team.
Okay.
We're gonna soon hold our first interview. All the team around, very excited but also stressed. That's why we have to find first the person who we're interviewing. There she goes. That's good. Yeah. Clara, could you perhaps introduce yourself?
So as you said, I'm Clara. I'm a mechanical engineering master student at ETH, and I'm the project manager of ACE.
Nice. In general, a lot of people don't know what is ACE. Could you maybe quickly briefly explain what is the goal of ACE and who are you?
We're the solar racing team at ETH. So we build a solar car for the Bridge to Mold Solar Challenge, which happens every 2 years. This is, let's say, the small goal that everyone sees, right? But at the same time, our goal is to enrich the education of the students at our university and other universities, so that they can do something practical on the side of their studies, which is more applicable to real life, let's say.
Thank you. What is a personal goal to be part of ACE?
What I really like about ACE is the people, and one of my main goals, also why I became project manager, was because I want to build a super motivated team, and also just spread my excitement for the project.
Amazing. In general, if people want to participate in aCentauri, what kind of people are in the team?
We have a very wide range. I would say we're actually mostly mechanical engineering students. It makes sense, we build a car. And we also have electrical engineering students. So on the technical side, it's mainly them, plus some other physics or other science students. But of course, we're not complete just on the technical side. We also have a business side, which includes sponsoring and operations and communications. And we have students from all different areas of study there. For example, digital communications. Yes.
Cool. And in general, solar racing was almost founded in Switzerland. Do you have maybe a short background of the solar race history in Switzerland?
So the first solar race actually took place in 1985 in Switzerland. This was the Tour de Sol. Back then the cars looked a bit different, I won't lie. A lot less futuristic maybe than now. But yes, and that's also why we are actually 85 as our team number, to reflect this history.
And in general, like, what's the difference between an electrical car and a solar car?
So both have an electrical battery. So the solar car is, in theory, an electric car in terms of having an electric motor. But we get our energy from the sun with our PV cells. Our battery is simply there to top up when the solar irradiance is lower or driving during the night or something. But an electric car drives purely from their battery, which is then charged from the wall.
Yeah. And do you know, like, how much of, like, percentage-wise, maybe, do we ride on actual solar energy and how much just on pure battery that wasn't recharged by solar energy in our solar car?
Okay. So in Australia, when we take part in the race, we have to drive the 3,000 kilometers with one battery. So we are allowed to start with a full battery. And this battery is about twice the size of the battery of an electric scooter. So it's roughly about 1/20th to 1/10th of our total energy to drive that whole distance in Australia only.
It's pure battery?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, you talked about Australia. Could you maybe briefly explain what is this race in Australia and how is it different from this race in Belgium now?
Okay, so the Bridgestone World Solar Challenge, it goes from Darwin in the north of Australia to Adelaide in the south, and it's an endurance, well, they're both endurance races, but this is in a different sense. It just goes along one road, a public road, which is also a big difference to here, and it goes over between 4 and 6 days, and yeah, but here it's a 24-hour race on a track. We have our pit box where everything's built up nicely. But in Australia, all our team members are also on the road following the solar car. There's not, for example, like a team here ready to repair as soon as the car comes back in the pit. It's completely different. There are also just roadside repairs, everything.
Yeah. And do you remember who was number one, who won the last Bridgestone World Solar Challenge?
Bridgestone, okay. Inoptus, the Belgium team, won the last Bridgestone World Solar Challenge. They finished in just over 4 days. ACE, as a comparison, we took just under 6 days to finish.
And do you know who was the last winner of this race?
The last winner of this race was Sonnenwagen, the German team. They even actually participated with 2 cars, and they came first and second place last time.
Okay, interesting. Do you know also what was like their score, or what was how many laps they completed?
Nice.
Ooh, not the top of my head, but I know that on average, over the whole 24 hours, I think they drove 60 kilometers per hour.
Yeah. 60 kilometers. And
Nice.
well, maybe just for the viewer, how many times have we taken part in this race, including this race and perhaps also the Bridgestone World Solar Challenge, so they know at what stage we're at?
This is the first time participating in this race, and we've actually only participated in the Bridgestone World Solar Challenge once as well, because this is with our first ever solar car. The second one's in the making, but not there yet.
And are there already any learnings so far for this race?
I think a lot of the team structure and how we approach, for example, repairs and how the team works together, I think we've managed to win a lot of like useful information and experience from that. And that we'll definitely implement that for Australia and for the next European Solar Challenge.
Personally, do you think which one is more challenging, this Australian race or this race, the 24-hour race?
The Australian one.
And which one do you like more?
The Australian one. But this one's, I mean, it's completely different. This one, I think, the interaction between teams is much nicer and much better because everyone is in one place the whole time. But personally, I find the Australian one more exciting. It's also just a different place. This is Europe. We live in Europe, and Australia is just the other side of the world. That also adds a wow factor to it, you know?
Cool. I'll quickly check if we have audience questions. But before that, perhaps just in general, what is the goal for the team during this race, for this race?
Our goal is, like in terms of the car, is to win the national title for Switzerland. But as a team, it's just to gain experience in the race setting and also to grow together as a team. We're quite a new team, and what's really important in solar racing is that everyone can pull together, everyone works well with each other, everyone thinks ahead.
Okay, excellent. And do you feel there's a lot of competition or is it a very collaborative atmosphere?
I think it's generally very collaborative here. Everyone helps each other. If one team is missing a part, someone else will help you. And we had a few electrical issues, and people from all the different teams came and said, "Hey, we can sit down together." It's been really great.
There was an issue with the electrical side, and I think Team Sonnenwagen helped us out. From Aachen.
They sat down together with us with the motor. I'm not sure whether they did in the end, but for example, they also lent us some cables when our charging cable wasn't meeting the regulations. They come by every time we have an issue and ask if everything's okay, whether they can help.
Nice. Let me quickly check if the audience has any questions. Okay, what is the craziest thing you've experienced so far in aCentauri?
Ooh, that's a difficult one. It's difficult to say. I would say like a lot of things in Australia were just completely new to us. Also, I mean, the whole project is new. Like there are new experiences. It tops on crazy every time. I think one of the big eye-openers, well, it's not a crazy thing, no. But I would say one of the crazy things that people from the outside would say probably, if we look at it that way, is how little sleep we got last year. It's like how much time and effort everyone invested into this project. It's voluntary. Most of us don't get credits for it, but they still came day in, day out. It's like that with the whole solar car community. It's crazy.
You talked about sleep. How does it work with the shifts here at Belgium? Someone asked that question. Because the 24 hours, you can't drive for 24 hours. Does the driver change? Does the team change in the background? Or how does it work with shifts?
So the driver shifts are each 2 hours. It's also given by the regulations, but also the concentration decreases after a while. And for the mechanical repair team, we have 4 6-hour shifts, which always switch. And for example, me and our team manager, we also switch with these shifts. The other teams are a bit more flexible. For example, communications and strategy also need to be around the whole time. They also try to organize it in shifts, but if something goes wrong, some of us probably will be awake for the whole 24 hours.
And what's your next task? What is your role right now?
Right now, I'm not on shift. I think I'll watch the race a bit and see if everything's going okay with the car. If it comes into the pit box with a repair, we'll see who can do what to help. But otherwise, till this evening, I can rest a bit for my next shift.
Cool, that's good.
Energiemasse ist jetzt Targetmasse. Fluid jetzt noch Average bis jetzt alles super.
Ja, ja, das hat aber hin.
Das nächste Auto hinter dir war Durham University. Aber die sind jetzt erst das Haarnadel rausgegangen. Genau. Okay. Kann man die in Pits oder wie? Okay.
You can currently see strategy team working on.
Friedrichshafen, die fahren in Pits. Ja, sie auf der Map ein bisschen komisch anzeigen. Es scheint so, als würde Durham fast den gleichen Pace fahren. Wahrscheinlich ein bisschen schneller als wir, aber nicht rein Mensch. Ja. Du bist gerade bei 5:01 gefahren. Ja. Genau. Ja. Ich glaube, es. Wie bitte? B12, genau. Eben genau, also wir können ein bisschen mehr chillen, aber ja, ich denke, es ist schwierig, oder? Ja. Ja.
Suno?
Ja, genau, genau. Okay. Ja, aber ich schaue im Energieverbrauch. Ich meine, jetzt kann Strategy mit Energieverbrauch.
Strategy is a big part of the race. Florin, Tom, and Adam. Strategy. It's an endurance race. It's about long and steady instead of fast. And that's why to be most efficient you have to apply good strategies. And that in 24 hours.
Perfekt. Sonnenwagen mit der Maschine auf der Straight überholen.
Stressful because it goes live, you can't
Ja.
man ahead.
Sind hinter dir.
Strategize.
Fahr relativ schnell.
It's always something that you have to do on the go.
Genau. Rechts bleiben. Kannst du überholen? Tipptopp. Hilft das dir, wenn ich immer die Autos hinter dir announce? Okay, nice, nice. Ja, die sind sketchy, ich weiß. Perfekt. Das nächste Auto hinter dir wäre Halmstad University. Also ich wusste, die fahren momentan auf eine schnellere Rundenzeiten. Ihre letzte Lap ist 5:05 gesehen. Sie fahren aber schon mit ähnlich schnell. Hinter uns. Aber sie sind jetzt noch auf der Straight, also du hast momentan niemand dicht hinter dir. Jetzt wolltest du schon weg. Ja.
Florin, Tom, and Adam are working hard. They are our current strategy team. During the race, in terms of strategy, is to drive as efficiently as possible, but still at a constant and good speed. I talked before to the strategy team, and they said that the most efficient is to drive the same lap time constantly for 24 hours, and to be fully charged at the beginning and fully discharged at the end. And we want to use as much as possible solar energy during the day and charge as much as possible during the night. During the race you can recharge the battery, so you can plug it in, stop. However, it takes a long time, so you try to avoid it, and teams in general try to avoid it. And it takes about an hour to recharge a battery to 40%. You can't use like a Tesla supercharger or something of that sort to recharge our battery, so it takes a lot of time. And this is why strategy decided to avoid it as much as possible, which makes sense. The strategy team is also responsible to collect telemetry data. This includes the speed of the car, where we are, what battery percentage, how fast, also recovery. And it's all built by ETH students, so the whole system is built by the ETH students, and they have no experience, so it's quite amazing and hard work. Noptus is still number 1, followed by Sonnenwagen Aachen. They're one car, and then the other cars also from Sonnenwagen Aachen at number 3. aCentauri is still number 12. The ITU Solar Car team just took over Solar Team Eindhoven. Solar Team Eindhoven was number 1 at the beginning, but now they dropped to number 11, so something might have happened. So maybe they just were lucky in the beginning. The position at the beginning is decided by the dynamic testing results. So, as I said in the beginning, we have to go through scrutineering. Every team has to go through scrutineering, where the organizers test the car, and if we pass it, we can go to the race. And also, if we pass it well, we get points. And depending on the amount of points, you can either start at position number 1 or at position number 18. We were in position number 12, and we're also currently in position number 12. And Team Eindhoven, they did really well in the dynamic testing. That's why they could start at number 1, but now they've dropped to number 14. They dropped even further down. Perhaps something happened, we don't know. Strategy is also not informed. They're working on our car right now, they focus on that. So far, the best team has 10 laps. Strategy estimated that we're going to do about 250 laps if we finish the race.
Ja, ich glaube, dass in der letzten Runde 3,38. Genau, das sind relativ schnell durchsetzen. Ja. Aber wir haben einen recht guten Start gehabt. Hust hat jetzt, ist immer noch hinter dir, aber holt langsam aber stetig auf. Kann sein, dass sie vielleicht Turn 4 die könnte überholen nach der Chicane Turn 5, 6.
Number 8. Last year, the Bridgestone World Solar Challenge was the first time that they finished the race. They came in 11th, if I recall correctly, just in front of our car. aCentauri was number 12. As actually now, which is actually a funny coincidence. And we completed 11 laps. Oh no, sorry. The amount of laps will be displayed soon.
Aber fast ist konstant, das ist sehr nice.
GPS geht.
There you go, that's again the cruiser class.
Gefolgt von zweimal Sonnenwagen, wahrscheinlich zuerst Photon, dann Agni. Danach ist auf P4 ist Ser, P5 Solis, P6 Top Touch, P7 Twente, P8 Durham, P9 Charles, P10 Christmas, P11 Eindhoven, aber Eindhoven ist ja so eine Kategorie, also die Prinzip so P11 hochrein.
Participated with this car in the last Bridgestone World Solar Challenge, and their older car is called Photon, and is at position number 3.
Es war trocken an der Strecke. Okay.
We are still number 12.
Ja, ist es umfahrbar oder ist es. Also. Okay. Aber werfen ist es noch nicht. Ist es kein offizielles? Alles gut. Haben Sie die indische Fahne überholt, oder wie? Ja. Ja. Ja, ich habe so notiert, vielleicht tun wir es gerne.
Jo.
Ja. John Leo? Ja, mal schauen, die haben safe noch Video.
Now we have John Leo, our team manager from the ESC. Perhaps, John Leo, could you introduce yourself?
Okay, so then I'll maybe give you a brief overview on how we designed and built the car, because when saying building a car, you have to take those two things together. So I think the main thing with solar cars are trimmed for efficiency, right? And the main thing you want to achieve is aerodynamic efficiency. So that's also why this car looks like a spaceship, because it's trimmed for aerodynamic efficiency. And then that's really the main thing you want to do is optimizing it aerodynamically. So doing a lot of computer simulation, so-called CFD, computational fluid dynamics, where you just analyze and calculate the flow field around the car, designing it to have as little aerodynamic drag as possible. And then everything inside, it's very highly interlinked, what the aerodynamic does and what's inside. In the end, comes down to high or how low above the ground you're able to put your center of gravity. That in the end decides how good your solar car is, because that really defines the aerodynamics, then you're having a center of gravity really close to the ground. You can build a narrow solar car, more aerodynamic solar car. So that's in short how we designed it. I mean, there's much more to it. Designing the best PV cells, designing the best battery cells, designing the best, etc. And then building was the carbon fiber and all the stuff you see. From the outset was mostly done by ourselves. So laminating it, bringing molds to the milling partners, they milled out the molds, and we then laminating it, the stuff ourselves. For suspension parts, more metal parts, we mostly also delivered them to milling partners. We just designed them and did less stuff ourselves, but then did the assembly in our workshop. And also for the electrical things, I mean, battery cells and solar cells we bought them, but then all the low voltage system, that's all designed by ourselves, yeah. And then I cannot give you a recipe on how to build a solar car really in this short time, but that's roughly what you do. And then we began manufacturing around January 2023, and then finished it just before the race in 2023, August. So that was basically how you build a solar car, yeah.
Amazing. And I know that you had a lot of discussion between what design you want to choose. Could you maybe explain to the viewers why this type of design or form of the hull is good for aerodynamic drag?
So that's the stuff that happens on a live stream. That's what I had, the beauty of being live. Really, first of all, we have to understand there are basically two types of concepts for solar cars. There's the more, say, standard car, which you see is our car, which is a so-called monohull car. Which if the live stream then shows you some other cars, there are also catamaran cars, which more look like a catamaran for sailing. They're more, say, the classic solar cars, whether our car more resembles a classic normal electric or diesel, whatever car. And it's really, it closely interlinks with the regulations, what the regulations allow you to build. But in the end, such a car that we build allows you for the smallest frontal area. And in the end, for the more technical advanced viewers, it's really frontal area and coefficient of drag that makes up for the aerodynamic drag, which is like 75%. Driver, I actually 90 kilograms. Yeah, must be.
Charge. with that, how far can it drive on one full charge, but without recharging with solar energy?
So without solar energy,
Let's do without first, and then with.
I mean, with solar energy, okay, without first, depends on the speed. Say you drive about 50 to 60, you go, I actually don't know the numbers really accurate by head, but 300 to 400 kilometers. And say with solar, so that was without solar before, but with solar, technically you could go endless distances. Really depends on the speed. Are you using more than you're getting in with a solar array? Depends on the time of day. Depends on how depends on many factors. But technically, you could go endless distance.
Fantastic. We had to go through a lot of scrutineering, and could you maybe explain to the viewers what were like the official requirements by the race committee?
So, as Danny mentioned, right, we had to go through scrutineering, both static and dynamic. In the static, it was more like, do we fulfill the rules? Like statically, for example, is the car to the correct dimensions? Is it also safe? Meaning mostly the electrical system, but also mechanical system. Do the brakes look good? Like, is it properly engineered? Is it not just some carbon or metal tubes glued together? Is it like proper engineering? But that's mostly fulfilling the regulations for fairness reasons, but then also safety reasons, because in the end, we're driving on a racetrack. That's dangerous. We're having a lithium-ion battery with us. That needs to be properly handled. Otherwise, we can end up in a big fire and a big incident.
Interesting. And how do you deal, for instance, with ventilation? I know it's a solar race car. A lot of people asked us during interviews or events like, well, it must get really hot if you're driving in the sun. Do you have ventilation or something of that sort?
So ventilation is a big issue. From an engineer, all the engineers in the team, they don't want ventilation, for the reason that ventilation consumes energy, and you want to be as energy efficient as possible, so you don't want any ventilation, just because that's using up energy. On the other side, the drivers need some ventilation, because if this is really hermetically sealed, what it should be, it gets really hot, and it's CO2 reaches the air. So for Australia, we sort of had the luck that our car wasn't good enough. We had a lot of Yes, ventilation makes you slower, but no ventilation can make the car crash if the driver isn't focused anymore. So that's really the trade-off you have to do. What is brings you in the end, how much risk you want to take, and how much energy you want to spend for driver's ventilation.
Yeah. And the race is quite different from the race in Australia. How did you have to adjust the car to fit the needs for this race?
That's also an interesting question. So we mostly, so this is more like a milestone in the design of the new car. So what we did is we mostly, we only did small improvements, meaning we improved sort of the brake efficiency. So before in Australia we had a lot of rubbing brakes, so just the brake pads that were constantly rubbing on our brake discs, which made us lose was really unnecessary loss of energy. What we also did is we got in a better inverter, so the thing that controls the motor, more efficient motor controller, let's say. And then we just improved the brakes for performance. Also, it's a track race here. You want to be able to have good brakes. Even though you want to drive efficient, you also want to have proper braking brakes. So that's some safety improving things we also did.
And I mean, the race is 24 hours long. for obvious reasons, it would be a bit hard to charge with solar energy during the night. And how will we drive overnight?
That's a good question. So for the viewers that don't know, we have a battery in the car. In Australia, it was just for giving us a bit more of autonomy, really not being too dependent on the sun. Here, we're allowed to charge our battery 3 times. We can do whenever we want. And the guys you saw before in the live stream, our strategy guys, they're calculating when we want to recharge. And yeah, we're allowed to recharge 3 times in total. And we have to do it as best timed as possible.
And when you recharge the car, do you have to stop for like 30 minutes and you have 30 minutes and you can't charge longer? Or do you have like, you can charge as long as you want and then continue? Are there like rules?
Depends on the category you're taking part in. With our car, we're able, we have to stop for a minimum of 30 minutes, but we can extend our charging stop for up to 60 minutes. But that's the maximum we can do. So in total, 3 hours of full charging.
There's something happening in the background. We're not quite sure. It's a safety car, so perhaps the car broke down. Might be from the other Swiss team. We're not sure. We'll keep you informed and continue with the interview. What do you think will be like the biggest challenge during this race?
So the biggest challenge with this race and with any other race also in Australia is endurance. So it's not a Formula 1 race that's really about speed and well, also Formula 1 race is about endurance, about reliability. But Formula 1 race takes about 1.5 hours. This race takes 24 hours, meaning you have to be able to drive 24 hours. And to finish first, you have to finish first, meaning you gain much more laps or do much more laps if you're just able to drive constantly. So here also, as within Australia, reliability is key. You don't want your car to break down at the side of the road. You don't want to have to do too many repair stops inside the pits. So it's just about having a car that runs reliably, just without you interfering with it, and just you're able to drive for those 24 hours.
In general, like not specifically in our car, but what do you think is the technical part that will collapse most likely for doing 24 hours, or you can't, or is there nothing that you can generalize in that sense?
I mean, that's difficult to say. We had, before the start of this race, we had some issues with our motor, with our battery. That's so naturally the thing we expect to fail first. However, it might also be that something really unexpected fails. However, all the mechanical system is tested 3,000 kilometers from Australia. I think the suspension works. The only thing I can imagine, what we also had issues with in Australia, is the steering, which it's not that it fails completely, that's for sure, but it's just that that we might do some maintenance on it, because it loosens a bit up. We have to tighten it again. That I think is the main issue we'll have to stop for. But also that I think the team has done a great job beforehand. So I'm actually, it might well be that we don't have to stop at all.
And as a team manager, what do you think? What is like the biggest difference or biggest challenge in this race compared to the Bridgestone World Solar Challenge?
That's a difficult question to ask, just to answer, because I didn't have the role of team manager in Australia, right? So in Australia, I was more technically involved, and let's say the logistics is way easier here, just because we're in Belgium. Belgium is in Europe. It's really easy to get the car here. That was a big hurdle for us in Australia, to get the car there. What's the big challenge here is we're a much larger team, which in Australia we had the team that worked on the car for almost a year, so they knew the car inside out. This team, they just started. It's their basically first race to get race experience, which is deliberately done. We want them to have their first race experience here, but it's a much different challenge, and you have to tackle things differently. You have to sort of have. That's also the thing with a bigger team. You can have smaller tasks and have less all-rounders, but more specifically people that have their own really role and they're expert for some, say, example, front suspension, one for the rear suspension. So that's really the advantage we can have here. So it's to sum it up. Logistics are way easier here in Belgium than they were in Australia, but say the team is more difficult to manage. It's a larger team, just naturally a large team is different to manage, and you have to be really more specific on how do you assign people to roles. Yeah.
And if something like breaks down during the race, how do you communicate with the driver? Do you have a person who communicates with the driver constantly? How does that work?
So we have one person in charge for communicating the driver. Am I allowed to turn the camera, one of those camera? No, Danny doesn't want to, because just behind this camera sits our radio man. He's talking to the driver constantly. We have a radio communication, which is basically just like you're on a phone call with the driver for those 2-hour stints that you have, and they're in itself communicating closely with the strategy, just so that they can give the driver the exact speed the driver should drive. Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic. We'll quickly check if we have any questions from the audience. What inspired you to be part of ACE?
That's a really nice question. So what inspired me initially is first of all, you have to say the challenge, Australia. Australia is a big pulling factor, also for new team members. But then for us, it was really cool is that before at ETH there was no solar car team existing. So we were the first people to do so, and we were also just like the ability for us to build up the car, build up the team, do something for future generations of solar car engineers. That's really something that inspired me to do, and that's also part why I'm still here in the team. After Australia, sort of my mission was done, but then considering what I initially joined ACE for, I wanted to go again and really give the new team some inspiration, also tell them what we learned from Australia, and just enable them to build a new and improved car. So that's really what inspired me to go to ACE.
Wow, that's a beautiful answer. What race did you prefer, Australia or Belgium?
So it's really. So first of all, that's the first European Solar Challenge also for me. Australia is really cool. It's a large adventure. You're there for like 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks. So it's a big thing. This is only 1 week. It's a different challenge in the end. And even though this is an endurance race, Australia is even a more endurance race, let's say. And I cannot say what I prefer more. I think I like both, but differently. Like they're so different races, you cannot compare them. And maybe just something that crossed my mind just before your for your first question, what inspired me to come to ACE, that's what I mentioned before. What inspired me to stay at ACE, that's sort of a bit different thing. Is so first of all, yes, building up that team, but then also having seen in Australia what the solar community is all about, helping each other. Yes, we are competitors, but in the end we're also just friends. We're helping each other out, going to other pit boxes. Hey, can you explain me your car? Yes, sure. We're happy to explain the cars, happy to lend tools, even motors, etc. That's something I really inspired me, and also the spirit of ACE to just, yes, there are challenges, but hey, it's not done until the race is over and we have not crossed the finish line. And that's also something, the biggest thing I took with me from Australia is, if someone would ask me what's the spirit of ACE, the spirit of ACE is, I have to say it in Swiss German, but Got's nicht, gibt's nicht. So if it's not working, no, that's not possible. There always is a way. And that's really something that made us finish the race in Australia, and it's really something that inspired me and motivated me, and that's something I took with me.
Wow. Okay, last question from the audience is, what is your favorite team besides ACE?
Oh, that's such a mean question. That's such a mean question. I mean, I cannot answer this question. There's so many nice teams around the paddock. I have to say, only to name a few of them, I mean, we're really good friends with Team Sonnenwagen Aachen from Germany, but then also with Inoptus Solar Racing from KU Leuven in Belgium, or Top Dutch Solar Racing from Groningen in the Netherlands. But it's an unfair question to ask, because all the teams here are so nice. It's really cool. Let's say those are the teams I have the most contact with, but I cannot say they're my favorite teams. The other teams are just such a large community. I don't know them all yet. But yeah, I'm sorry. Can't give a definitive answer. I know that's such a mean thing to do to you guys, but no, I cannot, and I don't want to. I don't want to pick. They're all great friends of us, or of me. I don't know about the other guys, but of me, they're all great friends.
Well, thank you so much. We don't have any other questions. I mean, the audience and I, we wish you the best of luck and a lot of success in the almost 22 hours left. Yeah, best of luck. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on the live. Yeah, thanks for having me on the live stream. Thanks for joining in. You at home in Switzerland or wherever you are in the world. It's great sharing what we do with the world outside there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Danny.
Yeah. Okay, let's check again how the positioning looks like. We have number 1 Inoptus Solar Team, and 2 and 3 still Sonnenwagen Aachen. So they are holding their position. Inoptus has currently completed 18 laps, Sonnenwagen Aachen 17, and aCentauri is still number 12. We have an input from John Leo.
Yeah, so for all the guys out there, just some good news. The strategy just confirmed that we're consuming less energy than we expected, so we're able to pick up the pace and hopefully take some spots up there. Yeah.
Amazing, that's really good news. I think I'm going to switch one camera angle. Then you might see the strategy team. That's really good that we're running less energy. Again, it's a 24 hours race, so the start doesn't really say anything about the end. And the current positionings might change completely in the near future. And since this race is about endurance, efficiency is really important, and we're running more efficient than we expected, which is fantastic. Currently we can see our driver's lead. He is constantly communicating with the drivers. If anything happens, he will say what to do. If we have to change drivers during the pit stop, he guides them. If you have to change drivers unexpectedly, he will communicate it. It's a really tough job. He has to be awake on 24 hours and think quickly. So props to him. Currently, we still have Max driving. He will drive about the first 2 hours. We plan to change drivers after 2 hours. This is because of regulations, but also because of just that the driver will lose concentrations after 2 hours. It's not like driving a normal car. It's much more technical. You have to communicate constantly what's happening in the car, how it feels, if it recuperates well. All of this results in it's just much more, it's heavier to drive. But Max is doing a really good job. We're still number 12, like in the beginning.
Position of the display is slightly delayed. Und in Optos ist auch noch hinter.
All of the team is working in one way or another.
Nach der Infos das Auto vorwärts ist Charles, Platz 10.
Almost all of the team is now with strategy. The others are thinking about if something breaks down, how to repair it. You can see we didn't really eat, we have to eat during the race. So it's really a multitask thing as well. Manuel, he's eating a sandwich, he's in the back. He's our electrical expert and he was the one working day and night to fix the issues with the electrical system. But now it seems to work. The car has been driving without issues so far. Just until like 10 o'clock today, the car didn't even drive or even didn't even start. So this is a really good job. Kudos to him.
Vielleicht können wir Guillaume holen. Für Interview, Driver-Interview.
Weißt du was?
Strategy, wir können euch nicht, gell? Just so you know. Wir können euch nicht. Also ich kann reden und das finde ich produziert. Wir sehen auch nicht.
John Leo is discussing strategy with the team. Everyone's thinking how to improve. We have some more comments. Can you comment on the strategy during the night time? We can do that. I'll invite John Leo afterwards. And he might also answer the second question, what capacity does your battery have? Hi. This is Guillaume. He will be our third driver. Second driver. Well, perhaps you can quickly introduce yourself so the audience knows who you are and what is your role at the race.
Okay, right. So hi, I'm Guillaume, and I will be driving here at the ESC in the name of aCentauri. So it's a big honor, and it's really nice to be part of the drivers team. So yeah, I was also in Australia last year, but not as a driver, but more as a logistic and mechanical team. Exactly, that's about me.
In general, how is it to drive a solo race car?
I mean, it's not as if you are driving a go-kart. You have to be very predictive. You have to recuperate quite in advance and leave the gas also, like to stop accelerating early enough. Also, the vision is not great. I mean, you have quite some deformation when you're looking through the canopy. And also regarding other teams, we have long cars, 5 meters long, long braking distance if we are recuperating. So yeah, very predictive driving.
And what is the thing that takes most time to get used to when driving a solo race car?
So maybe this is specific for our car also, or maybe it depends on how the other teams build their canopy. But I would say that vision and estimating the distances is the thing that takes the most time to practice. Yeah.
And you said about recuperating, it takes a long time to brake with recuperating. How much of the braking do you recuperate, or is that just something you do in the straight part of the track, or do you do that constantly?
So basically you recuperate before the turn. So you leave the gas. So you get out of turn. You press the gas. Then you leave it. You let the solar car roll, and then you start recuperating before the turn, and then you drive into the turn. Yeah.
And you're working in shifts, so there's no one driver driving for 24 hours. How does that work? How many drivers are you, and when do you change, and how much time do you have? How does it work?
Yeah, so basically we have 6 drivers, and we have a night team and a day team. And day team, there are 3 drivers. We have stints of 2 hours each, and then we're gonna be charging the battery. It's planned for twice, so we're gonna try to charge the battery 2 times, but we are allowed to charge 3 times. So we're gonna be driving maybe a bit faster if we see that we have enough buffer, like enough time. Exactly, and then so yeah, there's also this night shift. Exactly, so it's about 2 hours per driver.
And you have when you say you want to change, do you have a specific time you have to? Are you time restricted, or do you have maybe a personal goal how quickly you want to change drivers?
Yeah, so basically also it is concerning now in I think about 30 minutes we will be changing drivers. There is a driver box, basically here organized by the iLumen European Solar Challenge, right in between the pits and the charging bay, and there you have 5 minutes. You have to be at least 5 minutes on the driver change boxes. Exactly. You can stay there 10 minutes, but I mean there's no point in this.
And what are you most nervous about?
Yeah, I mean during practice there was maybe 6-7 teams at a time. Now there will be 15. So let's see how this is going to be now on the track. Yeah. So basically also how other teams behave and how all the things will look like. Yeah.
And when are you driving? Are you the next driver, or are you driving up? And are you driving afterwards? How many times will you drive in your shift?
Yeah, so I will be driving now at 15 o'clock until 17. That's what is planned. And then I will be also driving tomorrow the last hour from 12 to 13 o'clock.
And for you, what's the most challenging part of the track? Which curve, or perhaps just in general?
Yeah, so the most challenging part of the track is the Villeneuve chicane. So it's the one after curve, let's say 7. So you get here behind the pit lanes, you have the straight line. Then you have this Thierry chicane, and then the track goes up. So you have an uphill, and then it goes downhill. and there the car quite accelerates quite a lot with the gravity. So you have to recuperate early enough and have not too much speed when you are reaching the hill. Yeah.
And how confident do you feel about the results of aCentauri?
Yeah, well, at the beginning I was a bit skeptical, but now with talking strategy, like right now by talking a bit with strategy, they noticed that we were using less energy than they thought we would be using, and the sun is also playing a good role. So the sun is with us, like in Australia. So we have a good piece of luck also with us. So yeah, I think now I'm a bit more optimistic. Yeah.
Since this is an endurance race, you have to drive efficiently. But is this like mainly a technical thing, or is that also a lot a result of the driver's way of driving?
I think it's a combination of both. I mean, if the car behaves badly, so if the recuperation is, for instance, very bad, or the acceleration is also not behaving as it should, then I mean the driver can be as good as he wants. It will be a pain. But I mean the driver also has huge responsibilities to try to not use the mechanical brake at all, because this is just energy loss and energy which goes into the wind. So I mean it's a combination of both. The basic is the technical, so to have a good having a good car and a reliable car is the basis of everything, and then the driver needs to drive as efficient as possible.
And how did you train for the race? Did you train before even coming to Belgium? And did you train during, or I mean not during the race, but just before the race, but in Belgium?
Yeah, so basically we had sim racing on the circuit of Zolder. I think that was in June. And then there were also several practice sessions right before the competition, where they also tested the car. So it was like here, it was just technical team and drivers in parallel testing their things. And now we had also some testing sessions yesterday, so we had 2 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the night.
That's about it. We'll proceed with the audience questions. What is the maximum speed you're driving?
So right now the technical team has restricted the speed to 80 kilometers per hour maximum, but we won't even drive that fast. It doesn't make any sense, because else you have to recuperate way too early or way too fast. So I think maybe it's gonna be 65, 70 in the straights, depending on how comfortable I will feel.
Yeah. What's your favorite part about the track?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it's maybe the most boring part. I mean, the most interesting part is, I would say, the curve here. So the curve 1, 2, and 3 when you drive here out of the pit boxes and here out of the starting line. But the best part, I would say, the part you enjoy the most is when you drive here straight and you see all your friends winking at you. So that's, I would say, this is the fun part. Yeah.
Do you have to do anything else besides changing drivers, doing a pit stop?
Not a lot. I mean, I'm a reserve driver, so the driver which comes afterwards has to stay in the pit in case the driver driving right now is not feeling well or whatsoever. I also have to charge the radios and communication stuff, but that's it, basically. Yeah.
Thank you. There are no more questions from the audience, and we're also done with the interview. So I thank you very much. I wish you the best of luck and a lot of success. Yeah, good luck with the driving.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel.
Goodbye. All right, let's check positioning. Inoptus is still number 1 with 23 laps, followed by Sunwang Aachen in position number 2 and 3 with their 2 cars. And then the second Swiss team, Energy is position number 4. The has 23 laps so far. And aCentauri is now number 11, so he moved 1 spot up. and you can see in the track we are leader is number 8. He's now getting into the T8-9 turn.
Max, bist du viel am Wasser trinken oder verspürst du? Okay, jawohl, ist noch adäquat voll. Okay, und Durstig mit Medikation.
You see, the track is not very curvy, but it has several turns that are very narrow and angled, which makes it hard for solar car because solar cars are mostly constructed to drive efficiently and long distances, which normally is something straight like a highway, and this makes the race more interesting in terms of as a technical challenge. The track is 4.2 kilometers long, or short. It was a former F1 track, and now it's used for other races. We'll soon add some footage from our previous race, and perhaps also from this race, some background footage. As you can see, this is some footage from some behind-the-scenes footage. That's when we arrived at Zolder. We unloaded Alich, our car. Logistics is also a big part of this race. You have to bring not only the car, but the whole team and a lot of gear. That's just some few team members watching the static scrutineering. That was on Thursday, where we tested the car statically, and you could only bring, I think, 7 people from the technical team into the region where they tested the car, and that's why some part of the team had to stay outside. Here you can see the technical team working on the car and the electrical team. That's Manuel. He's our electrical expert. That's Sam and Nico, both engineers. Nico is our head of mechanicals. I guess they're smiling in this picture because we passed static scrutineering. It's a big relief for the technical team. Again, Alich being unloaded. Here's John Leo with an ESC organizer, probably checking what parts of the test we still have to complete. This is Clara, our team manager, deputy team manager. She's probably checking something, was checking something in the technical. That's the pit stop lane. So that's not where the cars drive by in the track, that's where they stop. You can see the first pit stops. We are a bit further down, can't see it in the picture. I said it was a F1, it's a former F1 track. That's why a lot of the architecture and design of this racetrack is made for F1 cars, including the pit stop lane. There's also our team going through scrutineering. This is still static scrutineering. Here they're more concerned. Perhaps there was something that wasn't going quite well, but as far as I know, everything went well. This was Max, that's our current driver. He's driving right now, but that's a picture of doing static scrutineering. And here he was testing how quickly he can go out and into the car, because you have to do it in 15 seconds to pass static scrutineering. As you can see, he jumped once out of the car, and small back-sided tail. He hit while he was doing that. He didn't break anything, but he did hit it. That's in the middle of the track. Before our race, there was I think, practice session, or just for hobbyists, a test or a driving session for motorbikes. And you can see there are two motorbikes just passing by. That's in our pit stop. Alage being tested, they checked stuff. It's a lot of work. It's not like a normal car where you can just start. You have to test a lot of things. You have to go through a lot of things, check. Nico and the technical team are working here really hard. This is our strategy team, Adam, Florin, and Tom. Giacomo, he's just watching. He's not really part of the strategy team. He's a lead. And they're just working. They're working on the strategy. Again, pit stop, checking the car. That's during the night. We're working day in, day out. Here you can see that our car is number 85, as Clara explained. 85. We chose the number 85 because the first solar car race was in 1985. Clara and Rafi, Suno and Rafi. Suno is our business manager. A lot of the team, I mean, this whole project wouldn't happen if we don't have sponsors, if cash flow doesn't work, and Suno is responsible for that part, which is also really important. Here the technical team is, and some leads are deciding or just thinking about the static scrutineering. That's our communications team. It's also really important. I mean, you can build a good car, but the world has to know about it. We're hopefully building a good car, and we try that to make the world know about us. That was they recorded some videos, and that was a background image of, a backstage image of a recording. Circuit Zolder. It's in Belgium, Zolder. That's why it's in French. And as any good trip and team event, it always requires some fun. And it's important to always laugh, even when stuff isn't working. Some more images, some more testing. That's again Max testing. That was what doing dynamic testing. He was driving. Yes, he was driving and testing the car. That here you can see our pit stop. It's rather small. On the right side you can see half of the door, the entrance of the other pit stop from the other Swiss team. Max again testing driving. Oh no, that's not Max, sorry, that's Guillaume. He will be our second driver today. That's the one that we interviewed before. Alex coming back from the racetrack to the pit stop. Guillaume is currently preparing for the race. That's our team after the dynamic scrutineering. That's Guillaume, a wonderful picture of him. I think shows the passion, the stress, the dirt behind this race. It's a lot of practice. Driving such a car is not easy. It's completely different from a normal car. Everyone has a drive. All of the drivers have a driving license, but it doesn't. It's not a guarantee for good driving doing still a car race. Last tests before dynamic driving, scrutineering. There you go. You can see the track again. Number 8 is number 1. Currently, that's Inoptus Solar Team. aCentauri is currently number 11. Alex is currently in the straight line, just after number 7. Oh, Inoptus is taking over number 99. But number 7 took over, so we're now in position number 12. No, we're still position number 11. Sorry. 27 laps for Inoptus Solar Team. The other Swiss team is doing fantastic. Solar Energy Races, SER number 4. Now we'll soon experience a stop. This is going to be interesting. Perhaps we can get a view on that. There you go. The team is currently preparing for a pit stop. Guillaume in the blue suit will be then our next driver. Try to get a view from the pit stop, a close view from the pit stop, but there are some technical issues with the camera. You can see most drivers will change now. Also, other pit stops will happen. Guillaume is getting ready. Our car will arrive soon. Achtung, du stehst jetzt gerade vor der Kamera. Ich weiss es gerade selber nicht. Ich glaube, das siehst du nicht, das siehst du. Sie läuft. Du musst am besten stehen, so gerade an der Grenze. Ah, shit.
Aber schon gut. Also, wo ist dein Handy platziert?
Gerade da hinten.
Okay. Hinter dem Carbon?
Ja, nein, ja, also beim Küssi.
Du weißt, dass wir jetzt einen Pitstop machen.
Hä?
Willst du den Pitstop filmen?
Ja, wäre geil, aber das ist nicht für uns, glaube ich. Sorry, our team interrupted me quite quickly. We have everyone's excited about the pit stop. It's our first pit stop. Driver's lead is also excited. There you go, Alex arrived. Guillaume. There you go. Max completed his first shift, the first drive. Feels good. We will. You have to stop for 5 minutes. This is also why we put up the solar panels for more effective. Also to check if anything is to check for technical issues. But so far so good. Lea, who's with the helmet, is preparing the communications part of the race during the race. Also a very important part. It's not like in an F1 race where we have to change quickly. We have to stop for 5 minutes and we can take our time. It's not about speed, it's about efficiency and longevity. Max is explaining to Guillaume what part of the racetrack he has to be careful. It's a very technical task to drive such a car. You have to, you can't just use normal brakes, or I mean you can technically, but you try to use the electrical brakes with the recuperation to recharge the batteries, but that makes the braking a lot more technical, and you have to plan in advance. Go whole team. Everyone's ready. Change will happen soon. Now we will change the drivers. We'll put back the solar. We'll put down the solar panels or the cover. Guillaume is slightly nervous. He also is holding some extra weight. This is. I'm not sure if this is a requirement, but I know that we do that also for efficiency reason, because if the point of gravity is lower, it allows to drive a bit quicker. That was the water bag. As you can see, Max drank most of it. This is because it's really, really hot. It's only about 23 degrees outside air temperature, but in the car there's a sort of greenhouse effect, and that increases the temperature to about plus 10 to 15 degrees. So in the car it's about 35 degrees. And he's wearing a suit, he has to focus, concentrate. This makes it very challenging and physically challenging. Change the water bag. One minute until the next change, or until they depart. Yes, 1 minute until departure. They're closing the canopy. And off they go. We have our first pit stop. It was successful. Everyone's happy. We'll soon get some results from Max. I'm going to check if I can get an interview.
Clara, weißt du ein bisschen Bescheid, wie es lief? Ja, nicht schlecht. Weißt du, wie es lief?
Es war eigentlich nur, dass die ESC-Karte gefehlt hat, bei den 40 Minuten mit Fida.
Ja.
Und sie hat jetzt reingetan und jetzt davor das Driver changed, aber ja, aber viele Shops gleich natürlich.
Ja.
Everything went well. We only had to change or add our ESC card. The ESC card is just a card from the European Solar Challenge that allows the organizers to track our car, and it's going to be implemented now. And also we're going to switch drivers. But so far, so good. We're driving efficiently. We're driving slowly but steadily, exactly as planned. We're just number 12. But oh no, actually we improved to number 11. Anopta's solo team is still number 1, followed by Sonnenwagen Aachen in position number 2 and 3. And the second Swiss team, Solar Energy Race, is still number 3. Fantastic job. 30 laps for number 1, 22 for number 2, and 27 for position 3. Yes, we're live. Okay, we see a quick view of our team discussing our pit stop, how it went, how to improve. We'll quickly have an interview with one of our strategy team members. Tom, could you quickly introduce yourself and then perhaps give an update to the viewers how aCentauri is doing from the strategy point of view?
Yes, so from a strategy viewpoint, until now the race went pretty okay, pretty well. We could accurately predict how the car was going and how much energy we were using and stuff, so our predictions are pretty accurate. So we are pretty content with that case. We still have some issues with the data and getting all the data live, but we are working on fixing that, and currently they already, I hope they did that, so we should be live again. From our standpoint, we are doing pretty well. The weather's going great, so which is good because we have a big solar area. So from our standpoint, it's pretty good, I would say.
And what are you working on right now?
Right now, it's we are trying to look what would be the ideal speed and the ideal time which we could give the driver, because we are charging or we are using a bit less energy than expected, so we can go a bit quicker than anticipated, which is quite nice. And so we are working on giving an accurate prediction and maybe also fixing our models a bit.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I won't disturb you any longer. You're really busy. But thank you so much. Wish you the best of luck and success.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Okay. So strategy is going well. We'll now have some update on that part. Team is still discussing. We'll add some footage from Australia. aCentauri is still number 11, Noptus number 1, Aachen 2. Oh, but they got Solar Energy Races. SER took over the second car of Aachen. So we have a Swiss team in position number 3. SER and aCentauri are the only teams representing Switzerland in this race. This is a short video from our race in Australia. Came in position number 12, was our first time participating in the race, which is really good. Most teams don't even make it, even if they build a car several years. And aCentauri managed to build a car in a year and come in number 12. That was the first race day. 6 days in total for us. 4 days was the best time. Alec was the first race for Alec, our car. As you can see, there it's just about driving very long, straight in the desert. It's a completely different challenge, also very interesting, technically as well as physically. But the team was really happy. That was a year ago.
Okay, so right now at 450. And
This year, this race will not. There won't be a Bridgestone World Solo Challenge because it's a biannual race. So every second year, it happens every second year. So next year, in September. In August, the Bridgestone World Solo Challenge will be hosted. You can see some of the team members from that time that are also part of this race today. This is Alex. He's still part of the race. He couldn't join, unfortunately, in this race, but he was in Australia last year. As the title of this next video says, efficiency is key. Again, it's about long and steady and not quick and risky as Formula One would do. You can also see that they're camping. This is the same for us here in Belgium, all camping. Brings the whole team together, makes the experience much more enjoyable, fun, but also adventurous. Alex, again, being interviewed. The race is a lot longer, makes it hard, also fun. This race is 24 hours. In Australia, you don't drive for 24 hours, you can only drive between 9 and 5, if I recall correctly. At least there's a certain time period where you can drive and then you have to stop by regulation.
Ja. Max?
perhaps we get an interview with Max. He's a bit tired, but he might join us for an interview quickly, and then we'll have to end this session. Team driving. Also a big difference in the race in Australia is that the whole team has to drive with the car, because you're not stationary, you're driving across Australia. In Belgium, the whole team has a camp and can always go back and relax. In Australia, the whole team has to be dynamic and move with the car. As in this race, but also in Australia, the team constantly has to improve, do changes to the car. And in Australia, nothing broke down except in the beginning, and in the end, a small thing. But you have to change tires, you have to readjust some stuff, for instance, like the steering. This is a bazooka, an air bazooka. It helps to pump up the tires. The tires do not have an inner tube. That's why we need to use an air bazooka to fill up the tires quickly and then pump them to the required pressure. Okay, we're going to switch to Max. So first of all, Max, big props to you. Amazing, you completed your first drive. How was it?
It was probably the highlight of my year, that's for sure. I don't think I've ever done something so fun in ages, honestly. Yeah, I still need to gather my words together because, I mean, after the first 1.5 hours, the only thing I could think of is, oh my god, it's going to be over in half an hour and I'm going to have to switch seats. That was like the biggest downside.
I mean, so much emotions, I can feel it in my heart as well. Amazing that you completed. What would you say was the hardest part about the race?
Until now, the hardest part was everything that started before the race. You know, I mean, you can see the team in the background. It's barely started, and the work doesn't stop. And it started way before the race, weeks before with night shifts, and now the days before the race, 24/7 work on the car. And I'm very delighted that it's working now the way it should. So I think the hardest part is almost done now. Like, now it only needs to stay the same. Everything else is done.
Amazing. And when is your next shift? Oh, I mean, when do you drive next?
I'm lucky. I can sleep a full night. I can get a full night's sleep. I'm driving next tomorrow at 10 a.m., having the shift from 10 till 12.
So it's always 2 hours?
Yeah, exactly.
And did it feel like 2 hours, or was it over quickly?
It felt like maybe 20 minutes, if that. Yeah, it's so. I mean, it's just fun. It's pure joy.
And what is for you the biggest difference, or what did you have to get used to when driving a solo race car compared to like a normal everyday vehicle?
Well, I mean, the only thing you're thinking of is efficiency, and really edging out how far you can, or how fast you can drive, while still remaining somewhat neutral within your energy consumption and energy production from the sun. So there's a whole strategic aspect to how you control the gas and how you coast. I mean, there'd be rounds where you don't brake a single time because you just get off the gas early enough to the point that your speed through the corner is sufficient. Any braking, even with regen, is a waste of energy and should be avoided at all costs. So that's really something I try to get into, not braking at all, and then inching up from there to see how much speed you can get out of it. And also having the state of charge of the battery always in mind. I mean, it's completely unlike any other driving experience, I'd imagine.
Wow, amazing. And regarding the driving experience, was it hot in the car?
Yeah, it was really toasty. Since we are not supposed to have any panel gaps, it has to be streamlined, aerodynamic. Just don't get any air to the driver, because any air that's going to the driver is not going around it and making it nice and streamlined. So yeah, it got really warm. And I think for me, even the bigger problem might have been the UV rays. I did put on sunscreen, but you really feel like you're getting cooked, especially since this track doesn't have a lot of shade. And really, it has like 1 or 2 corners that are in the shade, and you can feel the moment you enter the shade, that it's not the cabin that's particularly hot, but it's more the sunlight that's just burning down on you. But I mean, in the end, if you're getting the sunlight, that means the car is getting sunlight, so it's a sacrifice we're all willing to make.
It's the first time probably in your life where being burnt by the sun is a good thing, because it's good news, because you know that the car is recharged.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Well, I think you're quite tired, so I'll leave you, but thank you so much for the interview. I wish you the best of luck and success in the further shifts, and amazing.
And I mean, of course, I thank the team. There's 38 people here without whom all of this would not have been possible. And some of those people really, you can just see in their eyes the passion they have for the project, and you can see in their hands the amount of work they put into this project. And I think that's what makes this project special, also compared to others that you might find at ETH. I don't think there's this level of dedication in all teams.
Wow, what a wonderful note to end the stream. Thank you so much, Max. Again, best of luck and success. Thank you so much for watching our live stream. It's our first time streaming live. There were a lot of hurdles, a lot of technical issues. We hope you still enjoyed the live stream, but we're surely going to do a new one in the next race. So stay tuned. Thank you so much for watching, and also to you, the best of luck. Ace the race.
Sam, es hat Leute, die eine Error-Message geben, 12 Volt. Also er hat es nicht gesehen. Ich habe es nicht gesehen, und 12 Volt, aber es ist einfach People, die eine Error-Message geben. Konntest du die Error-Message lesen?
No, but it's absolutely battery needs charging. Okay.